think that's the reaction we've seen is proof that they haven't learnt that lesson.
Oh, mate.
Because the result last night should have been a very clear indicator that the line being run by the inner city left doesn't wash with the Australian public.
And then you've got,
the problem. You've got your mate Dean Parkin and Thomas Mayo standing up last night saying this is the biggest misinformation campaign we've ever seen. Like, they can't accept that they got it wrong.
Well, if it was misinformation, it was only because the Voice had no information to counter it with.
Well, so that's their fault.
You'll see that in the Daily Telegraph written loud and clear tomorrow. And again, the crying of sour grapes is disgraceful. I've never been for it. Hillary Clinton did it in 2016, and of course then Donald Trump does it in 2020, and then suddenly that's an affront to democracy.
But you watch how the democracy this week will go after.
I know. And that is why, of the 58 billion op-eds I've already written since the result has come through, every single one of them, despite my own personal disappointment, despite the fact that I've felt like I'm on the brink of tears for the last 8 weeks because I've seen how appallingly it's been run and how it's just going off a cliff, and the people driving the bus are going, hey, aren't we great? Yeah. But the one thing we cannot do, and the one thing, if there's, that lone progressive who might be watching this show tonight.
Oh, they hate watching, don't worry. If you're taking notes, if you're running off the media watch for 9:15 tomorrow night, it's all Sky News' fault. They're watching.
If you think it's the system, if you think it's the lies, if you think it's the misinformation, I mean, it's like a footy team coming off and saying, oh, it's not our fault we lost, the other team just played better than us.
No, they misinformation.
All those goals were cheat goals, and all our ones were legit. I mean, blaming the ref is the lowest form in a footy game, and it's not much better in an election campaign. And if they think like that and they blame everyone else but themselves for calling Australians racist before they even went to the polls, then they're just going to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And there will be no change. There will be none of the reforms that they want. And another thing they might want to look out for while they're claiming racism, have a look at the demographic makeup. If you're so obsessed by seeing everything through a racial lens, have a look at the demographic makeup of all the seats that voted for the Voice versus all the seats that voted against it. And quite frankly, the whiter you were and the richer you were, the more likely you were to vote yes. And the left needs to get that through its pretty little head as well, because it has become completely beholden to and appealing to and catering to a tertiary educated, affluent, elite that is overwhelmingly far more waspy and in many cases hasn't even met any of the people they were campaigning.
But that's been the demographic change, Evelyn, is it's like all of those outer suburban seats are fundamentally full of migrants, right? And many of them first generation. And they were the people who helped make this decision.
Absolutely. And I think, whenever you go down identity politics, there's always somebody else who you've got to appeal to. So you've got to ask yourself, what is it about the Indigenous that weren't having a voice? What is it about them that they didn't have that they needed? And then if you base the answer to that off identity politics, well, what about the migrants? Why don't they get a voice? What about the LGBT community? They're a minority. Why don't they also get a voice? And it just spirals down. And I think majority of Australians saw through it. And majority of Australians, I reject that majority of Australians are racist. I reject that majority of Australians are stupid. And that's all the Yes campaign kept saying towards the end. When they realised they were losing, they were like, well, we've got to bring out the big guns. I'm going to call every Australian stupid, every Australian racist.
It works really well, doesn't it?
All that they did, the Yes campaign, especially towards the end, was convince people to vote no. They didn't win anybody to their side from the beginning. And I think that majority of Australians wanted the safe option. They didn't know what the Voice was going to mean. Migrants have come here and have had to build things off hard work, hard labour, and they're like, I don't want all of that taken away when I don't know what that's going to mean. And so I think from the very beginning, people saw through it, but towards the end, with all the vitriol and the way that language was used as a weapon against everyday Australians out in the bush, out in raising families, people were just sick of it.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really encouraged by the result, but I'm saddened by it as well, because from the beginning, I was always saying this is a really divisive thing to do, because what's going to happen at the end? Like, we've got, let's say, approximately 60% voted no, 40% voted yes. Yeah. Well, there's 40% of Australians who think we hate them.
100%.
Yeah. Isn't that a horrible thing? Isn't that a horrible thing?
And only 30% of them are right.